My Lords, first oral question, Baroness Hayter of Kentish Town.
I beg leave to ask the question standing in my name on the order paper.
My Lords, the date for the second meeting of the Partnership Council has yet to be confirmed. The first Partnership Council met on the 9th of June last year and marked an important milestone in standing up the Trade and Cooperation Agreement governance structures. The agenda for the next meeting will be agreed with our EU counterparts and will of course push hard to ensure that priority issues for the UK are discussed and our interests protected.
Noble Lord the Minister for his reply. Particularly if this means that he has replaced the Noble Lord Frost, may I welcome him to this new position? He's saying no fear. Then I thank him for at least answering the question today. With regard to the Partnership Council, having passed the authority in both houses to establish the Parliamentary Partnership Assembly, and its membership due to be announced very shortly, I wonder if the Minister could give us an undertaking that our Foreign Secretary, as co-chair of the Partnership Council, will report both before and after meetings of the Council to the newly established Parliamentary Partnership Assembly.
Thank the Noble Baroness for a question. I will certainly convey her message to the Foreign Secretary, so I can't make an undertaking on her behalf, but it seems certainly it's in the spirit of the approach that she's taken of involving both houses and also maximum transparency.
It's technically the case that the Partnership Assembly will only cover the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, and yet some of the key issues between the UK and the EU are within the withdrawal agreement, not least Northern Ireland, and most importantly to MPs and members of this House, citizens' rights, UK and EU. Will the government sympathetically support the Assembly extending its remit into the withdrawal agreement and those key areas?
My Lords, our relationship with the European Union hinges in many respects on issues that are yet to be resolved, and the Noble Lord mentioned two of them, and resolving issues around the Northern Ireland border is an absolute priority, of course, for the government, but likewise issues around friction-free visa travel for within the European Union and the changes to border requirements, which are high up on the agenda as well. So the Noble Lord's priorities are very much in sync with those of the Foreign Secretary.
My Lords, will the Noble Lord the Minister not agree that experience in the first year of operation of this Council shows that the very passive and rather negative approach to it of doing the least possible and having only the one statutory meeting required has not so far delivered any very useful outcomes? Would it not be better if the new British chair of the Council showed a more proactive policy towards it, and also that when items are going to come up on the Partnership Council, starts to shape up what such decisions that might come out of it would be to our benefit?
My Lords, I'm not sure I agree that we've taken an insufficiently proactive approach, but I certainly think that the new Foreign Secretary has brought a particular level of energy to the task. But the first meeting, which met last year, saw frank but constructive discussions on the TCA implementation. And yes, there were a number of areas of disagreement that were identified, but the process launched the governance and committee structures of the TCA and our commitments to dialogue and cooperation. And so I think it achieved the first goals that were set out.
My Lords, would I never then take the opportunity to update the House on meetings of specialist committees between the UK and the EU, particularly in areas such as fisheries, which are so key to our ongoing and future relationship with the EU in these policy areas?
I'll try and provide answers in due course relating to other committees, specialist committees that the Noble Baroness mentioned. In relation to fishing licences, our approach has been and remains fully in line with our TCA obligations, and we said throughout the process that we've issued licences where we have received evidence of an entitlement. And it's worth pointing out that the UK has also issued over 1,800 licences to EU vessels seeking to fish in our waters.
My Lords, at the meeting of the Partnership Council on the 9th of June, sanitary and phytosanitary measures were discussed. Can the Minister confirm whether it is the intention of the Government to seek what is called often a veterinary agreement, and whether or not there is any progress on that issue?
I'm not able to give the Noble Baroness any kind of detailed update on those discussions. I don't believe there is an update to provide other than that those discussions continue, but I will, if there is more to provide, I will do so in writing.
My Lords, on the 16th of December, in answer to a question in this House from my noble friend Lord Hannay, Lord Frost gave an indication that performing artists would be discussed at the next meeting. Little has been done to resolve the huge concerns of musicians touring in Europe. Cabotage, for instance, has to be discussed at the TCA level. Will this be put on the agenda?
My Lords, the Government is committed to supporting the sector, the music sector, to adapt to these new arrangements that we have. We worked with DCMS to speak to EU member states about the importance of touring, and 21 EU member states have confirmed they offer visa and work permit-free routes for performers and other creative professionals, and this includes most of the biggest touring markets, including Spain, France, Germany and the Netherlands.
Before we left Euratom, EU representatives used to carry out external checks on the way in which we monitored emissions from nuclear sites, UK nuclear sites. Now that no longer happens and it's not been replaced with another system. So could the Noble Lord the Minister say or find out when the Partnership Council will discuss our post-Euratom radioactive substances status, a policy, an important policy area, which intersects, as he will know, with the Trade and Cooperation Agreement?
My Lords, much of the work that the Noble Baroness describes was work which was conducted on the back of UK experience and UK expertise, and neither of those things have gone. But in terms of this precise relationship that we will have to Euratom going forward, obviously those discussions continue, but I will see if I can provide more of an update to the Noble Baroness in due course.
Paul Johnson from the Institute of Fiscal Studies recently highlighted that trade with the EU has declined sharply since 2019. Based on OBR figures, the prediction is that this reduction in trade post-Brexit will reduce productivity in this country by 4%. What action will the government be taking to address this? And will the government finally admit that the promised benefits of the UK leaving the single market have in fact not been realised?
My Lords, there are a number of factors, not least COVID lockdown across Europe, but also businesses adjusting to the new trading relationship we have, which between them have made inevitable the dip that the Noble Baroness has described in relation to exports to the EU. But the ONS, the Office of National Statistics, has cautioned that it is impossible to currently at least identify the underlying causes at this point, and that we should be careful not to extrapolate. But in answer to the second part of the question, the Department for International Trade will continue to work with businesses and business groups across all sectors, the whole country, to make the export support service work as well as it possibly can for businesses. And as we set out in the 2025 border strategy, our ambition is to create the most effective border in the world.
My Lords, how will the... My Lords... My Lords...
Will my noble friend use the next meeting of the Partnership Council to point out to the European Union that Northern Ireland is now the only part of Europe in which laws are made for its people without any democratic mandate or input from them, and that this situation is incompatible with their own EU Charter on Fundamental Rights?
Noble Lord makes a hugely important point, and I just would reiterate that our overall aim is to renegotiate the Northern Ireland Protocol to resolve the undoubtedly significant issues that people and businesses in Northern Ireland are facing now on a daily basis. The EU has recognised that the current arrangements do not work, and any solution will be and must be underpinned by the commitments made in the Good Friday Agreement.
be another glaring, another.
Minister, how will Her Majesty's government...
My Lords, we have not yet heard from a non-affiliated member, so we will do so now.
Thank you, my Lords. How will Her Majesty's government judge the success of this partnership and whether it's worth continuing in the future?
My Lords, it's hard to know how effective the partnership is, given that we've only had one of those meetings. We have another meeting at some point this year. It has not been scheduled yet, but we certainly expect it to happen. And it would be easier, I think, to answer that question on the back of the results of that meeting.